Okay, today we talk about food and agriculture. The reading material for this chapter is textbook chapter 10. Before we get into agriculture, let's first take a look at how people get their food uh, prior to agriculture. So that is what we call hunting and gathering economy. So this is also, people call this forage culture. This is it was for a long period of time, humans is their major way of life, and today there's still 250,000 people in the world who practice hunting and gathering, and we see there's a few slides here. And the first slide you see this a cave drawing that depict what 10,000 years ago people uh, live in the wild, and they live in the cave, and therefore they also draw this create this as a cave painting to depict uh, their life. Obviously, their life was closely associated with these animals that they hunt every day as a source of food. Even today, there are still people who hunt animals as a source of food in the polar areas, also in tribes of Africa. So mostly today in isolated places of Arctic regions, Africa, uh, Australia, and South America, especially some native population, they still practice of hunting and gathering. So it's not economic form that totally disappeared. Okay. It's disappearing, but still is there. There's some geographical places you see the presence of the hunting and the gathering. This is a kind of a timeline that shows, and all the way back to 2 million years ago, we have this early humans. Uh, these are the species that practice hunting and gathering. Compared with that, we can see this is the point where the agriculture started. So you can really see that for most of the human history, we do not see agriculture. And agriculture, relatively speaking, is a more recent event. And this map shows the places where today there's still groups that practice hunting and gathering. And these are the places where we have information of. There are places where you do not see the practice. And not necessarily it's because there's no groups there that practice hunting and gathering. It's more likely that we have no information about them. Okay. But it's still, the point of this slide is that today there are still groups in various places on Earth that practice hunting and gathering. Then we come to a point that we talk about the origin and evolution of agriculture. So we define agriculture as growing crops and tending livestock for subsistence or economic gains. The most important story about origins of agriculture can be traced back to this the area in the Middle East and North Africa, in Mesopotamia area, and the uh, northern Egypt in the lower Nile Valley. So these two river valley, Mesopotamia area is very fertile soil because of the floodplain of the Mesopotamia area. Also in the lower reaches of the Nile, is also this Nile's floodplain. The two river valley was connected by this region. So this region really connects these two river valley, and there is some kind of cultural exchange between product and cultural exchange carried by people who go between these two river valleys, and that's where you have so many tribal groups that pass through this region. The eastern shore of the Mediterranean is a very cultural rich region. And thousands of years ago, merchants and different tribes that travel in this area. That's where you see the origin of the Israelis, tribes, and early Jewish kingdoms in this region. And that's in part because this is a corridor that connects the two river valleys. And that is the place people tend to associate with first place where you see the origin of agriculture. In present day, you have countries of Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Israel, and in the northeast Africa, obviously, we see Egypt. So this is a very typical story of origin of agriculture. Of course, this is not the only ancient hearth of agriculture. You have many other agricultural regions that independently exist in other parts of the world, just probably later in time. Here we have Mediterranean region here, and also we have West Africa, this region, Indus Valley here, and North China here, Southeast Asia, Mesoamerica, and Andes region. People believe that these are all different agricultural regions that developed independently during ancient times. And the part of the reason that people believe that these agricultural regions developed independently is because each of the regions have their unique contribution in terms of crops. For example, in North China, you have the rice and soybean. In Southeast Asia, you have mango and taro and coconuts. And so each agricultural house have their unique physical conditions, and they also have their original wild species of a plant species, and based upon the local physical environment, ancient humans just developed them into a part of their food production system, and they make unique contribution to world agriculture. And that's part of the reason that the people believe that these agricultural regions are somehow developed independently. And not that something that is spread from one place to another, so therefore the same crop species will spread from one location, from one center to another. It's not something like that. Similarly, each region also contribute their unique animal species to the agriculture as well. For example, here the chicken from Asia, and the sheep and the goat from Southwest Asia. Horses are from today's Central Asia, and alpaca is from llama from Latin America, and the turkey also from America. So these are all the reasons that people define those agricultural hearths as some early independent agricultural center. Later on, we know that there is a so-called Colombo exchange. This happened much later. This happened down more modern times. So you have different crop and different animal species that exchange between different world regions, different continents, due to modern human exchange. And these are really different from the origin of the ancient agricultural centers that we talked about early on. This is another timeline of origin and evolution of agriculture. We do not go into details into this. The point of showing this slide is to illustrate that after the origin of agriculture, there's still a long period of development. Think about that we saw that agriculture developed 9,000 or 10,000 years ago. Since then, there's a slow development for long period of time, and through which you see the technology gradually accumulate, and then will come to the industrial age that significantly speed up the development of modern agriculture, later on followed by more recent events such as the Green Revolution and the genetic engineering in agriculture. So this is a long process. So each stage illustrates a significant change in the management of land and organization of agriculture, and especially improvement in technology in agriculture. So we do not have time to get into details of this timetable. Just put this timetable here just for your information. Also get a sense of since our emergence of agriculture, there's also a long period of development as well. Okay, and this map shows us a kind of a worldwide agricultural distribution with different kind of agricultural system. On this map, you can really get a sense of this blue area is kind of a pastoral nomadism. People herd animals, mostly in developing countries, kind of subsistence animal herdings. Then you have this kind of this green colors slash and burn agriculture, this kind of places, mostly in tropical jungle regions. Then you have this Asia closely associated with intensive subsistence agriculture, and there are two general types. One is rice growing farming, another is non-rice growing farming. And then you have in the developing region, in developed regions, you have agriculture that you can break down into the mixed crop and livestock. Here in North America, here in Europe, people grow crops as the feed to feed animals, and they sell animal as final product. Then you have this dairy product in those more northerly locations, close to some big cities. People raise dairy cows and to produce the dairy product, fresh milk or cheese, those kind of product. Then you have a green production region, this yellowish color region here in North America, also here in Europe and part of Australia as well. So this condition good for green. It's not as wet, but also they have a sufficient moisture to grow crops such as wheat. Then you have livestock ranching, commercial ranching. Here is in the western United States and part of Central Asia, and here Australia. Here this is a desert region, so that's commercial ranching. Then you have a Mediterranean agriculture in the Mediterranean region, also in places that have Mediterranean climate in the southern tips of Africa, central Chile, the west coast of America is Southern California, I'm part of Australia, so that's Mediterranean agriculture. In addition, you have this commercial gardening here in those kind of southwestern United States, and in places where you have a good condition for particular kind of fruits and vegetables. In addition, you can see that you have a plantation. Those are the dark greens plantation. That those mostly are in a kind of a tropical or subtropical places where farms concentrate on one or two particular product and produce for the market. So this is a map that gave us a general view about the distribution of different kind of agricultural system.